접수도 기본에 들어 접어들 접수. 얘다다 토론 넘로랑 통소나 된제구다래 좋아. 된제구다는 기본에 들어. 홍콩의 기본에 들어. 어디? 얘다 접수도 전에 텔레 들어 접어들 접수. 나 말아도 미 나한테 좋아를 줘야 되니까 여봐야나. 아니 담이 가셔로 전에 고조를 좀 먹어야지. 소나는 접어들 들어가. 왜 대단히 가르사는 통보법이 고된 건데 제소나 아니 통보법 기반을 좋아해. 레다 뉴먼가 온게 저월람베 사제 요알레베 풍부부 동네에 저주가 어디 얘다 예송의 풍부도 감데 이제는 통에 풍부를 잡아 따와 잡고 어제 얘다 돌아나돌아 타도도 예송게 저와 람모와지 차도 차야지 남이도 뭐바지 디네네 저거 같다 요런 소바터도 얘네 저와 고베 소소 남이 좀 뭐바터가 소소 답에 뭐바지 터고요 얘네 저와 고베 소소 담고지 돌아나돌아지 또 얘다 통봉봉봉 어디지 얘다다 이제 자다 저왔는지 초도 초바지 주고도 고베 대마다 남제 대마다 저수로 다 보아당 내선 근접을 걸래 저 뭐지도 소서다 저 뭐지 다 가지 사지 존재되데 저 붙이 저 뭐지 저 뭐지 저 군조지 저 뭐지 내저 군조지 저 주변 다 로이 지나 어디든 인도시 전에 저 소도다 사지 군조를 저 붙이 저 군조를 저 군조지 자니 저 주시 인도 군조를 저 주변 다 군조지 자니 저 주변 초전도 수여선 이게 초는 기초原来就是90的，这当错过了呀，就是错过应该的，你那错过应该的，人家也那样，天津，怕别很啥的，那大家那些别出现那么大别的呢，给龙心就把带来呀，天津是吧？这那的错天津就把这错那边的呢，错是就把这天津去的，这那天津来就是90，他花的那中国东南人。그래 초전도 수어스보다 그렇게 로반나 어디든 초전도 수어시 이 타반에 로컬테 로린데 칼테 정도 차스다 이 타반에 로린데 칼고네 정도 치고 예수
So you may wonder then, how does one go for refuge to these three jewels? And you may also contemplate what is meant by these three supreme jewels. So here then there is a liturgy which we can read together, and I'll explain the meaning. Chant 3 times, not just a mere verbalization, but rather with bearing the meaning in mind, that I go for refuge to the perfect Buddha. Pray, show me how to become free of the sufferings of samsara in general and from the lower realms in particular. So here then, with regard to Buddha and focusing upon the Buddha, one should contemplate the plight of oneself within the cycle of existence. We've already mentioned 2 causes for turning for refuge, or 2 causes for refuge. That is to say, a fear of the lower realms of existence in specific, and then a trust or belief in the 3 jewels of refuge as offering kind of relief or kind of protection therefrom. In addition, this is the general kind of presentation of refuge, which is unique, which is common to both the Hinayana and also the Mahayana tenets. However, with regard to the Mahayana perspective of going for refuge, one doesn't only take refuge oneself, but includes within that practice all sentient beings. So with a mind of love for all sentient beings, then wishing to be the one who leads all of those sentient beings away from fear. And that is then here the definition of refuge. Refuge here means that separating from fear. So here one not only reflects upon oneself, but on the fear which is either verbalized or not of all sentient beings, contemplating that, wishing, at least mentally, to be of some service to others, then bringing to mind this mind or attitude of concern, wishing others to have happiness at its cause, or mind of love, then one turns to the fully enlightened one. So here then, a way of leading this can be that I and all other individuals, or I and all sentient beings, go for refuge to the perfect Buddha. Please show us how to become free from the suffering of samsara in general, and from the three lower realms in particular. This then constitutes the kind of greater vehicle, way or method of turning to then the Buddha for refuge. So how does one relate to the Buddha? Here, the Buddha is not related to as some divine creator, but rather as a teacher. What does this particular individual teach? Well, just as we request. Here then, the methods to free one from samsara in general, or from contaminated existence in general, and from the lower realms of existence in particular. Please offer us protection from the fear of this contaminated existence in its kind of subtle, that is to say, the divine and human states, or the gross, that is to say, these lower realms of existence. This contaminated and painful state of existence. Please teach me these methods, the utilization of which can lead to the cessation thereof. So that's the way in which one views the spiritual master. Then these instructions which are to be given then, what does this, what is meant by this? Here then, if we look in the next sentence, it says, I go for refuge to the desireless, the supreme Dharma. So here then, what is meant by the desireless? Here then, if we look at the makeup of the world, we have the desire realm, and then we have the what are known as the form and the formless realms. And then from up atop the formless realm, we have the other four levels of existence, culminating in what is known as the peak of the cycle of existence. And within those realms, there is no kind of gross manifest desire. So these then are desireless places. But is this what is actually meant by desireless here? So here, desireless refers to then the thorough abandonment of the destructive emotions which lead to, or which leads to an action which is contaminated thereby, which then holds one within the cycle of existence. So if we look at these form and formless realms, which are kind of enumerated within the kind of different concentrations of the first, second, third, and fourth, and above levels, within these confines, we find that even though gross desire is suspended, this desireless state, so-called, is not a stable one, because we ourselves are individuals who have been born in these realms of existence countless times in the past. But here we find ourselves still within the confines of the cycle of existence. And the reason is that although gross desire is subsumed with the kind of absorption of meditative concentration, which makes up one's existence within those realms, the root of which is cut. So it's not really fulfilling the definition of desirelessness, because it is just a kind of gross kind of nulling of kind of gross desire, whereas the root is still very much a part and parcel of the makeup of our mind. So it's important to understand this. So then, what is the desireless mentioned here as being the actual refuge? Because here then, the Buddha is the teacher, and his teaching then, the Dharma teaching or the spiritual instructions, which is renowned as the actual protection from fear. What does this refer to? Here then, this refers to a stable and desireless state. And the stable and desireless state is none other than the truth of, from within the Four Noble Truths, the truth of cessation. So here then the truth of cessation is manifest within one's being when one has achieved what is known as the direct cognition of suchness or emptiness or selflessness, whichever technical term you choose to use. And this is brought about through initially hearing the teaching about the subject matter, then contemplating and coming to a definite conclusion thereabout, then meditating upon this in a single-pointed fashion until one achieves, for those of you who have studied Buddhist psychology, one achieves what is known as the direct yogic perception of selflessness. So for the layperson, then we might say that this is a mind which has a direct, or is absorbed with the subject, which is the lack of autonomous existence of not only oneself, but of all phenomena. And it's that which serves to then sever the root of the cycle of existence. When one has this directly within one's experience, it is at that juncture in one's kind of being, or within one's spiritual practice, that one has one has removed the gross destructive emotions completely from one's being, because the basis for their arisal, which is the grasping onto inherent or autonomous identity-ness of both oneself and phenomena, has been removed. So as the root is gone, and the trunk, branches and fruit all kind of perish. So at this particular juncture, there is no more of the cycle of existence for oneself. One has removed then the kind of gross destructive emotions, and there through contaminated action ceases, even though one has to live out the kind of one's lot of previously accrued action or karma. There is no new karma which is produced at this particular point. So it's at this point that one has achieved for oneself the cessation. Here the cessation refers to then existence under the dominion of the destructive of action, which is wrought then through the destructive emotions. And this desireless state then is something which is stable and which is permanent, and it is this is then the actual means of liberating oneself from the discomfort of the cycle of existence in general and the three lower realms of existence in specific. So it is this which is the actual protection from fear. It is this which, when developed within oneself, is that which will cut all fear. And it is this then which is the actual refuge, which is the teaching of the fully enlightened one. So oneself and all sentient beings turn for refuge to this teaching, which is the kind of permanent or stable freedom from desire. And this is accomplished through the aid of one's spiritual friends. So here then one reads, I go for refuge to the supreme community, the Sangha jewel. In general, when we talk about communities, we can talk about communities of people, communities of animals, or we can talk about political communities, religious communities, etc. According to the definition, what is meant here by the Supreme Sangha jewel is a collection of 4 fully ordained ones. But what this means is then, in a more broader sense, is those individuals who aid one in kind of digesting the kind of Buddhist teaching. In order to aid one in practice, one needs to rely upon those who are more advanced or more mature in their spiritual practice than one. So these friends which aid us in the spiritual practice then, in a broad sense, are the Sangha jewel. According to the definition then, it is those 4 fully ordained individuals who have the merit of one who has actualized within his or her being then the truth of the cessation, which is the actual Sangha individual. So oneself and all sentient beings then turn to this supreme community, Sangha jewel then, for refuge from the fears, temporal and ultimate fears of the cycle of existence. And with this attitude in mind, not just verbalizing, but really with an intense feeling from one's heart, one turns for refuge to the 3 jewels.
Oh yeah. That more, you said that, 过了就跟我们个逻辑说这么说，前辈这边他是为了经济，过了这边越级空白个呢，相信都得注重艺术而且，第二节他过了都我当具备那么一当，上节长生把我看住，最终说明说那么的国内书本，国内书本去，这他让跟店呢，店这就说白了，让给送别。龙给去呢，越界让经济不仅那么有，首先南疆让你来这边出的，让你讲首先呢，第一点呢，自己前边这个前边忙呢，他马上就谈起国家的送个东西呢，继续做这都所有上不去，这解决在他们，而且呢，那么呢就是了呢。那么呢，就是都给那边，那么下叫都个那么简单，也给那家进去的，原给什么的就当，接落给原来接落就来那么当，那原给春节我都给那么都来面的，那么呢就是说的，就说到完了点呢，那么他说呢就故意起来，就是那么个现在这边军部。राज्य सिद्धि धाम के दिलुसन शुभे राज्य सिद्धि धाम के पांडे लामा धाम में जाओ तो शुभ चेसों सबे ऐसे में बच्चे हैं ना जाओ ये दिसे तो ऐसे दिलुसन
So when one goes for refuge, then it's good to have practice to accompany this, because if one just verbalizes, then it doesn't really have a strong impact upon one's mind. So in order to kind of get the most out of reciting these words, which exemplify going for refuge, then one should also incorporate the following practice. In the space in front of oneself, one should visualize or bring to mind and imagine one's spiritual master, or all of one's spiritual masters in the form of Shakyamuni Buddha, who's seated on the throne, which is upheld by 8 lions, which has a lotus sun and moon disc atop it, as a cushion, and on top of which is then the fully enlightened one in the aspect of the supreme emanation body, golden kind of in colour, with a kind of Ushnisha crown protrusion, blazed with the major and minor marks of perfection, dressed in the monastic garb. This individual should not be viewed as being flat like a painting or heavy like a statue, but rather vividly present before us as intangible like a rainbow made of light. And then around such an individual one should visualize the various lamas of the different traditions which we've been mentioning. For example, the lamas of the profound lineage, the vast lineage, etc. Then in front of them one should view all the spiritual masters with whom one has a kind of dharmic connection or spiritual connection, that is to say, from whom one has received teachings. Then around that, the various meditational deities, the heroes, heroines, dharma protectors, and so forth. At the back of this individual should be viewed the kind of teachings in the form of books, and then bring all of this to mind, and then one initially views that, and then with a kind of mind which is filled with kind of faith and trust in the 3 doors of refuge and one's spiritual master, which is replete with these causes, wishing to turn for refuge to then this particular ensemble of deities. One then recites the kind of refuge formula, and then initially starting with turning for refuge to the spiritual master. So it's written here in Sanskrit. So the Sanskrit translation is Namo Guru Bhya, or Lavala Kapsati. When one recites that, then one views this merry field, views all the different lamas as gazing lovingly at oneself, and thinking that not only I alone, but rather myself and all sentient beings turn for refuge to the spiritual master, and with this in mind, contemplating the qualities thereof, one recites the liturgy Sangha.
Melati Jella Sobatene, Chuko Namati, Sanji to the Mine, and the Sandiela to Joe, Sandiela to Joseph. Swata. The Swata Valatene, Longo Namati, the Sanji, Yidam Judici, Chuko Namati, the Sanji, Shaba to Somata, Melati Jella Sobat, Zulu Kui Chali, Yudan Nana, representative Jumpa. Rajas and Jetamji to Lucena Jobe, Homena Sabati, Cheval Toyan, Pata Sanji get any Kui Luciva, Sanji to Kula, the Nili, Jan Tava, and the Havana Sanji to Kula, Sangi Dushi, Song Sana, Jala Dushi, Song Dushi Cheva, and that the negative Sora Luciva, and that the negative Maguba. Kasoroba, Bicha, Kasapu, Sanji Juko, and then Sanji Jukui, the Nebulus, and the Sanji Juko, the Sajiola, Shabbat. On that the Nel, the Sanji and Nebit, did Hanji to go down Suku number, Ombu Godan, Abu Bogatam, the Chelet, Santa, Luta Salvage, Rajit in the Jew. Rajas and Jetanji. So
when doing this first recitation, then from the merit field, the various spiritual masters then smile upon us, and simultaneous with that, light rays and nectar descend therefrom, thoroughly purifying not only oneself but all sentient beings who are kind of reciting along with one in one's practice. And then one recites the next section, which is I go for refuge to the fully enlightened one. And so with this recitation, that one focuses upon the Buddhas in the merit field in front of oneself. So this refers primarily then to the two aspects of the form body of the fully enlightened one. That is to say, the enjoyment body, and then the emanation body. So with regard the emanation, with regard the enjoyment body, then one focuses upon the meditational deities of the four classes of Tantra, and then for the enjoyment, for the emanation bodies, then one focuses upon the Buddhas in the merit field. If one does this in an extensive way, one should view in the space in front of oneself the 1,000 Buddhas of this fortunate aeon. In addition to that, then the 35 confessional Buddhas from the sutta known as the Three Heaps, and the 8 medicine Buddhas, and so forth. If this is a bit too much, then one can just focus on the 35 Buddhas mentioned in the Three Heap Sutra, and also the 8 brothers contemplates, that is to say the 8 medicinal Buddhas, focusing upon those. Then one recites I go for refuge to the Buddha in Sanskrit, Namo Buddhaya, and with this recitation, then light rays and nectars then descend from the merit field, and then strike one, and then kind of transfer then the kind of qualities of the fully enlightened one's form to one, purifying obstacles, and then leaving one in a wonderful kind of space to engage in the Dharma or spiritual practice.
There are Araman, Aram, the Sumber, Longuchana, Ranjit, the Putti number, Yobas, and the Putti Orba, Soso Pundelia, Soso Soja, sort of Putti number. That tell me, and it Trilla tells the Jews, what did the Trilla tell the Jews in it, and it Trilla tells the Jews in it, and it's what double at the sort of Putti number, to do them a representative, Ranjit, the Lucena Jobe. Homena Sabiti, Cheval Puyantene, that sort of the Luz Sabata, sort of Jola Chabata, Sorola, Maguba Chabata, and they said, and you see Chabala, so the Diba Mideva to Samalu, and then Hanki Babu, Pugada, Wanema, and then to put the Sukola Suba number, Turn, Luta Savage, Rajit, Sedasuna, and do the identity, Cheval Puyantene, Rajit Tamji.
Next focus point behind the fully enlightened one has viewed the speech of the Buddhas in the form of books, and focusing upon those, then bringing to mind the qualities of the fully enlightened one's speech, bringing to mind the qualities of the Dharma teachings. Then one recites Namo Dharmaya, which is then the Sanskrit of our cry for refuge, to then this spiritual teaching. With that in mind, one focuses upon those books, and then does the meditation of the descent of nectar and light. And this then strikes oneself and all sentient beings, thoroughly removing all the negative action which one has committed since the beginning of this time, and imbuing one with the qualities of the speech of the fully enlightened one. So thus one meditates on the falling of light rays and nectars to oneself, purifying oneself and all sentient beings. And with that one recites that following sentence. So then lastly, one views the Sangha jewel in the front-generated or imagined merit field. One focuses on then the kind of bodhisattva, the male and female bodhisattvas, which are viewed below then the Buddhas, and then below that then one has been focusing upon the Dharma protectors or the Dharmapala deities. So these are all seen then as the members of the Sangha jewel. So focusing upon them, one recites either in Sanskrit or whatever, Namo Sanghaya, or I go for refuge to the virtuous community. So with this recitation then, from the front generation, light rays and nectars come and strike one, thoroughly purifying oneself from previously accrued negative action of body, speech and mind. In addition to that, and one can utilize this with all the visualizations, that not only is oneself and all sentient beings thoroughly kind of cleansed of previously accrued negative actions, walked through the three doors of body, speech and mind, but in addition to that, the qualities of the spiritual masters, the fully enlightened ones, the teachings and the assembly, then are kind of consumed within these light rays and nectars, and are kind of transferred to one. So not only is one kind of cleansed, but one is also kind of transformed into the magnificence of the kind of three jewels of refuge. And with this kind of meditation and with this kind of attitude, then one does the kind of recitation, and there through one kind of completes the practice of turning for refuge with this visualization.
control you did you go on the control of those on the so we can't control the things. Don't take some young mature go on number 10, yeah, 10 lessons to summer. Control you did Sheba, control from the Sheba, care number, send them the Mayo on the near lesson, 10 lessons to Samba Tabane, John Chow on that.
So it's not just enough to kind of think that one is going for refuge to the 3 or 4 jewels, how you enumerate it, to recite the liturgy a few times, and do this under the visualization. One needs to abide in the precepts. And so then there is a little discussion. If we read about halfway down the first column of page 8. Be always mindful of the precepts of one who has turned for refuge then to the 3 jewels. Having taken refuge in the Buddha, one should no longer rely upon worldly gods, but and one should see all images and statues, etc., of the Buddha as the actual manifestation of the Buddha himself. So here then, with regard not relying upon worldly divinities, this can also refer to putting one's kind of trust in kind of magicians and kind of clairvoyants and so forth. Though one can utilize them a little on the path, but they shouldn't become one's object of refuge. If one goes for refuge to the teaching, the Dharma jewel, then one should never harm any sentient being or show disrespect towards the scriptures, or the text or books which teach them the kind of spiritual or Dharma instructions. And then with regard to the third one, the Sangha jewel, one should no longer waste one's time with kind of false teachers or friends who will cause one kind of to lose one's practice of refuge, and one should never show kind of disrespect towards, here it's written saffron or maroon cloth. Basically these are the robes which then adorn those who live kind of the monastic life, so one should never show disrespect towards these clothing, which is the kind of reminder of living in this kind of monastic way, makeup of which makes up then the Sangha jewel. So with this in mind then, one should understand how to go for refuge and also what it means to abide in these refuge precepts. So we'll conclude the session here with this talk about refuge, and we'll continue with the more of karmic evolution tomorrow.
Chanju Samana Toba maybe Cherry Sheriff Yaparo, the Chimbala Indian, the San Artiba, maybe Toba, the Chindi Relation, and then Helen David Tarachel. Use on the number of Julia Sanjay Tamji, the Sheriff Yaparo, the Chimbala, then Arana, by Handaba, Zobe, the Newton, Moba, Toba, San, the Sheriff Yaparo, the Jimba. Ribachimbenga, Alana, Mebenga, Yamada, Nebenga, Matan, the Shore Tibanga, Mujimena, the Mashaba, the Sheriff Jabaro, the Tibanga, Mebadia, Samatin, the Parama, the Parasamba, Pudi, Sheriff and Jusamba, Sambachumbo, the Sheriff Japaro, the Chamba, Samara, Loba, Joe, the Union, the King, and the Telegan, the Jusamba, Samatin. Our generals on Jula, Lezo, she, the origin, the Lezo, the Didi, the Sheriff Japaro, the Jamba, Samara, the Shabana, the Jisu, Yeram, the gods, and it's a Damagan to the Buddha, and some Papa generals on Jula, Hamdi, and the Porter, Rada Meda Hamayan, the Desert, the Iran, the Sumbala, Mumba, Karaji, Benedict, Hamban, and Mujit, Numa, put them to Bola, my Pujit, and there's no control or a charge to Samara, the Chata, and some other Sanji Judan Soji Chanala Janjo Patuta Nijo Suji Daki Shiki Tibi Sunami Dola Benji Sanji Dobarajo Sanji Judan Soji Chanala Janjo Patuta Nijo Suji Daki Shiki Tibi Sunami Dola Benji Sanji Dobarajo Sanji Judan Soji Chanala Janjo Patuta Nijo Suji Daki Shiki Tibi Sunami Dola Benji Sanji Dobarajo 요한이 또 도버자 대토버 대위 치도 모다 주지 공부 지지 주동계 내 교바 현자 정부 루루도 도면이 결함솔 모다 냐면 좋을 정보다 가서 주지 정부 송가버 집에 주지 중앙도 담바 사무 정주 남제 집에 내 치라 먼저 예배 남게 너한테 전에 제조 공부진 수바 수남 결전 집에 내 습지 요진 규치 So
at the outstart, let us adjust our attitude for receiving the teaching, thinking that as far as space extends, existing within that space, are countless individuals in a state of dissatisfaction. And in order to separate each and every one of them from that dissatisfaction and give them the happiness that they so desire, I myself must achieve perfection. And in order to achieve perfection, I must know the methods or the path leading to such perfection. And with regard to traversing that path, that I must initially know about it. So at this juncture, I'm going to learn about the spiritual path through receiving the teaching, which is the essence of all the Buddhist teaching, which is adorned with the 5th meditation instructions of Nagarjuna and the Sangha, the great masters of ancient India. It is at the heart essence of Atishas and Lamatonkhana, these graduated stages of the path to enlightenment genre. It's indeed something wonderful, and with regard then the variety of practice manuals or instruction manuals, this is a commentary on the 3rd Dalai Lama, Sona Gyaltsen's Essence of Refined Gold. So in order to receive such a commentary then, I want you to bring to mind this attitude, and with this then let us proceed.
Sibe Devala Majaba Telayatene, and Ninjunga Sambasan, Puatana Shimba Lobe, Ninjunga Sambe Simba Jukuari. Ninjunga Samba Telayan, Sindi Nangshin Dobe, Ninjun Chimen Nangshin Dobe, Ninjun Nietzsche, somebody. Then Dotane, Sindi Nangshin Dobe, Ninjun the Mena, Jibu Chumota, Kumoya Lamja, Doba the Velatilio. Chimen Nangshin Dobe, Ninjun the Mena. One Tibur Dental Kumoya Lamja Ribet, over Tibur Tilio. Did I take him from Tane, Conda Sibi Gala, Machashi, Tanju to Church of somebody is to do, and Tanju Gichu, Georgia, Chame, then in the Chebatan Te, and then the Chawa Debit in it, Chawa Chibi Chu, Chanju, Chanju, the same which he did. Under the Chanju descend and butchie get in it. See somebody in that, and the Tabachin be trailer to Guyade. One of Chanju said the Timas and the Tabachin be trailer to Guyama. The day in between Tanju, they tell you, Tap to Zoti, Saint Ham, the Anamaba Yanga, but Sanji to go on top of the baby, Chanju the same. Or that they within it, Chanju the same. Human Trinity, the symbol of Esabachin. Jawa Jibelam, eat them be, got into the somebody, ジャワチベランテ、ね、サモトンバにシェラキー。 Jawa Jibe Lam, Sedan Jawa Jiba Cheba, Sedu, Tabata Tandi Chimbo, Toba Cheba Leya, Tony to be sheriff Mena, Tabata Tandi Chimbo, Tony to be sheriff Yuna, Galadena, Denebe, Dante, Mosaben the Jeba Sabachene, Yomomba Tamti, Denebe, Harami Jibi, Chujin the Chena Bombe, Tabata Tandi Chimbo, Toba Chenu by Yotani, Jawa Jibe Lama Suba, Yenta Teta Bitene, Enjoy Chasayanta, Betawa Sumbo Telatene, Taki, Nangedi, Sambada, Demebone, Sabertilgo Asum.
Tsongkhapa mentions in his writings that without any attachment to the world, making meaningful this short human life, traversing the path pleasing to the victors, how fortunate to have such an opportunity. Here then, if we look at each of those lines, the first one which speaks about not having any attachment to the world. So this can be interpreted in two ways. We look at world and relate that to our present existence, or we can look at it in the greater scheme of things, thinking of the cycle of existence in general. So whichever way we look at it, we can relate this to the graduated stages of the path. If we think about it with regard to this present lifetime, then if we have attachment to and are too involved with the activity of this short life, then it's very difficult to generate an attitude which wishes to go beyond this life, focusing on the beneficial actions which will give one, which will afford one benefit in the future. So it's impossible, you might say, that if one is overly attached to this short lifetime to engage in pure spiritual practice. We want to talk about attachment to the benefits or the joys of future lives, such as rebirth within divine and also human states. All of these are still within the scope of the cycle of existence or contaminated existence, and therefore bring about no everlasting contentment or happiness. So without any attachment to either this or the future, that is to say that abandoning our over-interest in this and future lives, one generates what is known as the mind of renunciation, a mind which wishes to emerge then from the cycle of existence. And with this as the foundation, if we look at the second line, which mentions making meaningful this human existence, what the hidden meaning of that line is to develop the precious mind of bodhicitta, that is to say an attitude which aspires to achieve the highest enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. This then, the development of this then, really warrants one's life meaningful. Then with those two as the foundation, entering in the path which pleases the victors, here victor is a metaphor for the fully enlightened ones, and that which really pleases them is accruing the causes which then lead to liberation and omniscience. So that this hidden meaning of this is meditating upon the actual mode of abiding of phenomena, the empty nature of phenomena. How wonderful indeed to enjoy such an opportunity. The last line, the meaning of which is how fortunate it is to enjoy the reflection upon these three principal points of spiritual practice. That is to say, a wish to leave the cycle of existence, renunciation, precious mind of bodhicitta, and lastly then this correct mode of abiding, or the empty nature of phenomena. How fortunate it is to here contemplate and meditate upon such wonderful pieces of advice.
What then Dibabang, Giordo, what that to the number Tato song, what that the little is. Lendel Ichi get Teba that Tibone, Lendig and Namjala Sujan the Robert is. That Lendig and Namjala Robert Tella, Gidani to the subject Mason, Dele Tanjik Tawa, Lendela Ichi Teba Jema, Dewa than Leba, Tanjik Tawa, Lendela Ichi Teba. Lendela Ichi Teba Mena, Dewa than Leba Tawa and Beverly, what did it in the day to Tane? Kana ke lende samne kabo sedu kabo gewe leche nabu me gewe leche kabo ka gewe lege ane debu gewa yeda nabu me gewe lege debu dongalan donde ke samba chene gedi ke le sosur ne ba ta lende ke na jatala dondu do ji ishi le sosur ne ba ta le peche wa ta le maje pa da maje pas le cheba chu meza wache ne le shi ko ne de sur samne gedi de londo suje de chego ba ye na de no ne le ne ba se du ju gyo sa ba la de ne de bu de wa ju ma do do ne ju ne ne ba ye ju me ge wa sa ba la de ne de bu do han ju ma do ji ge ne de wa ju ne ne ba ye ma da de bu ta ne le ne ba se Pele chawa se du lege devote and the Chirogi Samuel legum, the name Bishiragi, Pele chawa chen, or the day Nuba chawa chen. Chirogi Samuel Ayabena, Kombuki, Kasa Kombuki, Kamsi Chudu Digi, and the Kondo Chimbuti to Yari, Chiroji, Samuel Ayam, and the Shiraga Nuba Chimbu Yari, Teletum, Nangi Dene, leg and Dubati, and chawa infant, David. Pecho was what that is. Shiragi Pertua, what that is. They Kiti Karayana and then Yoyana and Jonjigi, Koran, Jonjigi, Tenibe, Chen, control of Sobata, and then the Mateva Yena, one upon the pen, and then go to Yana, Jibuchachimbo over the Chaga. Mikiwa Yana, Sadam Rasola, Tabar Chena, Yamado, Tabar Mateva Yena, and then Miguel Chumuji in I am the Nibia Hadan, Duni, Kansana, Hadan the Chimucha, or that the day. Then I today in the Tanya, Le Pecho us. Le Machepa and Machepas, that's Suzuki, Jibut, the order to make Karayana, Noyaki, and let the Sa Mena, and let the Jibuti Mungu, Jibut the Tilio. Rangi today let the Saba Yena. Lady Jibuti the Chego, did I let Majepa the Chego? Let Majepa the Machepas. Jeba Chu Mizawas, I let Jeba Yena, Yoa Yena, the control of Obatuzu, Tambatella, Chu Subas in the money. Makitu the Thomas. Then I gave Miguel Yena, Nimbuta Jishadan of Obatena, Tabatella, Chuzu Silma. Then my imbachi, the day the neighbor, Koran, the Karso Gache, Nimbo the Cheba, Maimba, Koran, Hataba, Tola of Buya, Zawan and Melody. They the Hatu, the Tola of Chimba, choose Sawas, and the Tola Buyas, Maimba, Koran, Jomji, Gache, the Cheba, Maimba, Tagaza, Teneta, Kalada, today in the Rubacha, Samulo Chayata, Boloyana, and then Gumuro Chabra to the Orva, and then that Dilla, and they may have from one of the late Latin, round the Mutucho with the Chota Tene, Nuba Mabata, yours. Get my Ibe, Tavas, the Nepona, until Jimmy Nuba Tene, pull out where the Yoma is. They the Titella, they two Mizawas, subject, the gender which is sheep on it, they never not get the phone.
So then let us continue with the reading of the and receiving of the instructions. So the place where we left the text yesterday was on page 8, and top of the second column, the laws of karmic evolution. So one may wonder, granted, abiding in refuge in the three jewels can protect oneself from the misery of the lower rebirth. But how can I bring about causes which bring about the higher rebirth? So here then, what really kind of installs trust in our practice of refuge is a mind which is abiding in faith, or has immovable trust in the laws of karma, or karmic evolution, action, cause and effect. So in order to contemplate this then, there are four important points to bring to mind. And these four important points are as follows: that positive and negative actions will bear their kind of respective fruit. So here, if one engages in positive action, the result of that is well-being. If one engages in negative action, then the result of that is discomfort, dissatisfaction. So here then, it's imperative to note that a concordant result arises from a specific cause. So it's not arbitrary. The results of actions are not arbitrary, rather the results follow the suit of the action themselves. If we look at the second outline, which is that karma increases, if you wonder what is meant by that, is that an action committed then will increase, so the result may be a lot greater than the actual causal factor. If we would like a worldly example, if you think of fruits, for example apricots, when you plant an apricot seed, it's very small, isn't it? However, this can produce a huge apricot tree, which in turn can produce hundreds of thousands of fruits. So in the same way, the smallest action, be it positive or negative, can produce incredible results. So that's the second of this fourfold investigation, meditation or outline, is that action or committed increases. And here then the third outline is that one doesn't meet with the results of actions which are not committed. So whatever action, whatever experience we undergo is the result of a certain cause which has been committed, or a certain action which has been engaged in the past. One's experience is not something arbitrary, but rather arises in dependence upon specific or related causal factors. And then lastly, karma does not kind of arbitrarily kind of waste away. So here what is meant by the latter one is that if one hasn't committed an action, be it positive or negative, in and of itself it's not going to disappear, it's not going to kind of wither and die like a tree or a flower, it's not going to go rotten like food, but rather it is going to remain with us until the cooperative conditions for the fruition of that action come together, and then we experience a particular pleasant or unpleasant encounter. So here it's important to note that karma remains with us unless something which is the opposite of that particular action causes that to disappear. For example, in the case of having engaged in negative action, bringing to mind strong regret and the four opponent powers, it's possible to kind of cleanse one's being of those previously accrued negative actions. And also with regard to positive actions, if one engages in very wholesome deeds and then generates anger and hostility, then through the force of that, one's store of a virtuous action can become diminished. This is what is known as destroying causal factors or action through the force of the opposite.
ubuda yana matsawala soda dele yungu arba de me ubu yoya de ko sute sona ya jimba matawaya soda de ubu chabai 다나게 되는 연락 맞춰만 되는데 요한테 지다 주전 송바 있나요? 양그 미세게 되고 가사 현다는데 샤고스 러버도 되다. 가사 현다게 되는 미교 공부를 전 개발로서 미기에 렌미세지 사바인 송산에 다 그런 걸 느낀데 내를 느끼 있나요? 그런 게 되는 미 샤고 차야 돼. 근데 미기에 레게 되고지. 어두세. 대도단에 주단 제부시 그 이시치기 때문에 연나요? 카가차도 원다 되는데 제가 단대 수대하기 왜 우부티 그 미르게 주전 송알에 되는 조바데 우부 차야 돼. 진발 마다와체는 선나제바인데 되게 되는 미기 우부 차. 미 마사와다 다 배는 미래다 미가 오물을 꽤 요바다 비에나 지전하니 공사전달을 샤고서는 막 되는 내게 지전하니 되는 공사전달이 미래가 다 네베 다고 그렇게 잡아주거나 양지 전 되는 쟤는 지게 오물을 꽤 제가 쟤네 지데블이야 되거라 오물 마사와 영화지 두지 뭐 되게 왜 시체게 되는 초바 옛날에 쭉 하가 해마도 쭉 주민다와 대마도 주제를 되는 조건 옛날에 맨날 말아도 둘로 치다 심해라서 봐 좋아다 자다 근데 그거 르게데 미게베 되고 둘둘데 옛날에 고향에 세보다 자차보다 근데 대대 이동에 차도도 개변적으로 이 바가나에 사는 존재 되게 되는 셰슈베 둘라 아니 그래서는 결혼 년보상 대해서 결혼 년보상 대해서 결혼 년보상 대해서 근데 미수고 춘종 제 아니 뭐침보 되는 배 칸에 다 되는 아니 미 진행바 주먹에바 되는 용이 뭐 되는지 너무 누가 싶었지 yang nian ba le kan men ce ge be yang nian bo ji wa de do ta ne be cha de nian bo ge chi je bo de ne se je ne kong de de se kan be nian da ne pan ro be kan ya je bo se je ge ta de ne kong ge yang de cha ma chi de wo de de ju de ge ha zhe me nian bo ba zhen de be de la ga na che yong ne wo de de ji de ta de kan de che ba de sa na 네, 근데 뭐 되는 상지 호환지기 냥엘은 대비 구동 주대샤. 구동 주대샤에 가나야 거 내가 진이 레메 차인데. 제가 주대 친구샤. 주대 친구샤한테 하는 거 하다. 다 주대 친구한테 차야 봐요. 얘네 주대 충종되는데 망자들이 샤샤되는 대학을 내가 주대 샤바로 나오면 좀 아니 주대를 지도 바라고 첩사다 저제다 오다 되는 책. 아 주마 주대 문제들에 조주에 관해야 되는 다 주대 대하고 시부터 조주 선고 줘봐야 오는 게. 내가 다 telebe 세 지구지. 지구 어디. 대표가에 도다네 뭐 되게 되는 권한이 주대 충동 샤는 데를 전부 샤고 말했어. 칸에 되려라. 이 주대에 틀려야 하면서 또 근데 제가 주기 아니 소고베 공통 되는 배 르네 전매심바 이거 이렇게 같은데 아니 다 주대를 지금 부분 제거해야 되거나 꽤 하장된 행복 우변되는 데는 어다 되는 정보 인소 이런 게 무슨 뜻이야 근데 다가나 이제 산지를 송구 되라고 구주체의 제목이 있어 구유를 제네 근데 산지를 송을 보라 제목이 근데 구유 깨지 못하지 어다 되는 제목이
So here then, with regard the first of these points of reflection, is that well-being comes about from virtuous or wholesome action or causal factor, and dissatisfaction comes about through a similar type of causal factor, negative, destructive action. So the doubt that can come within our reflection is those individuals who are born as human beings or in divine states, etc., if we see that some of them as having certain kinds of faults, perhaps they're very destitute, very poor, or they are missing certain limbs, or there is something with regard to their sense faculties that's not quite right. How is this possible? Because they are experiencing the result, aren't they, of a positive action. So here, even though the basis for achieving rebirth as a human being is a wholesome one, it is primarily abiding in pure ethics. This serves as the foundation for achieving a rebirth in the higher states of existence in the future. However, every experience which we have, or which anybody has within their life, is none other than a result of its respective cause. So if we see individuals who may look very wonderful, very powerful, but are destitute, poor individuals, we can certainly say that the basis for their human life is a wholesome one, abiding in ethical discipline. However, the reason that they are not enjoying well-being and prosperity is for not engaging in charitable acts in the past. So this is the direct result of that miserliness, is to be born as somebody who is poor in the future. Also, we may see individuals who are kind of lacking certain limbs, or who are born without arms and legs, or certain sense faculties, etc. And this is due to them having in the past either insulted kind of limbs of another, or who have those who have beaten, broken arms and legs of others. The ripening effects of those negative actions is that one can be born with damaged limbs, or one can lose one's limbs, sense faculties, etc. This is none other than the experience of reaping the result of a previously accrued action. So even though the basis may be a wholesome one, that is to say, the effect of having kept a perfect discipline, experiencing the result of rebirth as a human individual, however, the branches of such an existence are not always in accordance with the basis. They have their respective causes. In just the same way, if we look in the animal realm, for example, we see a variety of animals, and all of their existences is in the nature of dissatisfaction, the kind of difficulties they endure we went through yesterday. But within those different types of existence, you see dogs and cats who have beautiful coats, who have beautiful voices and so forth. This can be the result of them previously engaging in positive actions, even though the basis for existence is none other than the ripening result of a previously accrued negative action. And to illustrate this, there is a story which is related, or a kind of historical account which is related in the word of the fully enlightened one, Sutras, where there was an individual known as Nyapa. And this individual was a very small person, very small man, whose body was, and his head was very large, and whose face was extremely hideous. And no matter how much this individual washed, he would always have a terrible odor about him. It is said that to behold such an individual was extremely distressing for the beholder. However, this individual had a really beautiful voice, and when he would sing, even just hearing one word of his song or melody would cause one's mind to be at ease, and would cause one to have an incredible blissful experience. So it so happened that the king of the region heard this individual's voice and went to meet this individual, Nyapa. And when he beheld, or smelled and beheld the form of him, he said he was extremely disturbed. So much so that he went to the fully enlightened one and asked, how come that somebody with such a beautiful voice exists in such a hideous fashion? To which the Buddha explained to him the causes giving rise to that existence. And way back in the past, there was a fully enlightened one known as Koishine, and this fully enlightened person, before he was showed the aspect of passing away or passing into the state of ultimate cessation, his disciples decided to build in his honor a huge reliquary or stupa. And it is said that this the individual that was to become Nyapa was a marketeer at that time, and he went to those followers of that Buddha and said, "Why are you bothering to build such a huge stupa? It would be far better if you were to build smaller ones. Just build a few smaller ones and stop all this needless work. This is just a big waste of time. Why are you building such a thing? It's a complete farce." And he would cause all kinds of mischief around the building site. He would also use it as his toilet, and he would urinate and defecate around that area. However, when the stupa was complete, he said that he had a strong regret, seeing the wonders of that stupa. He then offered a confession to the builders and the fully enlightened Pandava, and offered a golden bell which had a beautiful sound to it, which was placed at the pinnacle, or the top of this stupa. So it is said that through his criticizing the stupa and his insistence that it be built small, that was the causal factor resulting in his tiny status. His hideousness and the smell which oozed from his body was the result of having defecated and urinated and around the building site of that stupa. However, his beautiful voice was none other than the result of offering such a beautiful bell to this stupa, along with his kind of regret for having previously criticized the building work. And subsequent to that, there was a time when the previous Buddha, Kashyapa, he was born as a small bird with a beautiful voice, which had a hideous visage. Again, there's another historical account with regard to that particular animal, which is related by the historical fully enlightened one. So here is just an illustration of how causes and effects work together on one base.
Denma she Rosary Hanorchi, Denma Chiku Tudur Cha. Then Develaya Teneta, Ling, Shila Moata, and then Pontican Hane, getting the thing Chagala point, what that Jabuchu, what that the is. Then the Giwa Miseki, Shenda Mendaya Giwasa Bayena, he in Develaya, and Miseki Shenda Mendaya Giwati, Mayata. And Miseki, the Nibishenda Mendaya Gibasa Bayena, he Develaya, Miseki Shenda Mendaya, Umayoya, what that day.
So to illustrate this point, of course, you are individuals who I'm sure have a very great appreciation for the law of karma, action, cause and effect. But if we illustrate these points with quotations and stories from the scriptures, then this aids us to kind of it aids our kind of practice. So I'll relate a couple more stories. I won't go on too long because we don't have so much time together. But anyway, at the time of the Buddha, there was a fully ordained nun whose name was Kamo, and she was an individual who was always seen in the kind of finest attire. So when she, it is even said that when she was born kind of born already wearing kind of the seemingly beautiful kind of silken garments, and that throughout all her life, wherever she was, whatever situation, she always has wondrous clothes. And then when she was ordained, then even her robes seemed to take on this wonderful kind of aspect. And so the fully enlightened one was asked why this was, and he related that in the past, at the time of the third enlightened one of this particular aeon, who's known as Kashyapa, that she offered, she at that time was a very poor individual who had just one set of clothing. She lived with her partner in a small place, and when she would go out, he would remain in the house naked. And when she would come home, they would exchange clothes, and she would remain home naked, and he would go out in the piece of clothing they had. And it so happened that the fully enlightened one, Kashyapa, came to that village, the place where they were staying, and they both sat down and said together, if such a fully enlightened one is coming here, it would be great to make some kind of offering. But the only thing of value which we have is this one piece of clothing. So they discussed the merits, pros and cons of offering this, and eventually they decided that they would offer it. So both naked, they went to the Buddha and offered this piece of clothing. And it is said that later the king of the region heard of their act of charity and immediately was filled with a great wonderment and sent items of clothing to them. So they had wonderful clothing to wear for that particular life. And then because of the force of that meritorious action and its increase, then throughout all their kind of previous, their future lives after that, they were continually clad in beautiful garments. They never had any problem finding wonderful things to wear. And also there's another tale which relates to an individual called Nalane, and this person is an incredible king with domain over the four directions and even some of the heavenly realms. And it was asked why this individual had such power and majesty. And it was said then that in the past, when there was the Buddha called, there was the fully enlightened one called Nase, and he was walking through the area where this individual who came to be this wondrous king was staying, and the young child, kind of caught with wonderment, went to this fully enlightened one with nothing to offer apart from a handful of sand, which he kind of tossed up at this fully enlightened one who was walking past on arms round, carrying nothing but his alms bowl. And it is said that 4 grains fell in the alms bowl, and 1 grain landed atop the crown protrusion, or the ushnisha, of that fully enlightened one. And the young boy there kind of made the prayer at that time, may I have something wonderful to offer to the fully enlightened one in the future, and with that thought offer this handful of earth. So through the force of that, it is said that the result of the 4 grains entering into the bowl of the fully enlightened one was the causal factor which allowed in his ripening result him to have majesty over the 4 cardinal directions, and the 1 grain landing atop the crown protrusion was that he would have dominion over certain of the heavenly or divine realms. So if the object is something exalted, and one with a kind of good attitude makes an action towards such an object, then it's possible that one can experience the result even within the confines of this very short lifetime. And in just the same way, if one acts negatively towards such objects, it's also probable that one will experience the negative experiences within the short confines of this lifetime, or to talk about the future existences.
다 고아당 내송은 기본을 불래 저무어제도 소스다 저무어제 다 가제 사지 존재되데 저무어지 주무어제 저무어지 주구조지 저무어지 연구구조지 저주베 다로이 지나 어디든 인도시 전에 저소도 거다 사지 구조를 저무어지 주구조를 저무어지 자니 저 Kendo kunjole teo chube dacho kunduji chane, teo chube cho zedu suyo sen, ndi chu. Cho namji cho, gengyole teo su chu usna. Teta choba le ya, dunju choba yungu ya re, mina choba yungu ya re, rete yena yang, gendu, pape kansa dang. Ande daga na jebe, chuden nambar tabi dene, gerong shin juba tele ya gendu siwa. Teta te, 초 견준 두바제 초 남전에 초스 초바디 견준체 제가 견준에 초스 초스 다 고아다 내송도 동안에 롤베 초스도 소스 보다 로테 로바나 어디데 초스도 소스 이 타바네 로컬테 롤린데 칼테 정도 차스다 이 타바네 롤린데 칼고네 정도 치고
So you may wonder that how does one go for refuge to these three jewels? And you may also contemplate what is meant by these three supreme jewels. So here then there is a liturgy which we can read together, and I'll explain the meaning. Chant 3 times, not just a mere verbalization, but rather with bearing the meaning